It's a great pleasure to have China Rapid Finance here today. Zane Wang is going to speak to us. He is the CEO of China Rapid Finance, and we're very much looking forward to what Dr. Wang has to share with us. So please welcome Zane Wang.
Very glad to be here, and we try to take this opportunity to discuss a business and the environment and the market. Let's see. Does this thing work? Yes. Consumer finance model, let's turn back the clock. Look at the beginning of this century, how it looked like. In the US, obviously, we all know credit reporting, credit bureaus, and decision science, scores, decision engines, etc., and also very popular the consumer finance, credit cards, etc. So the business framework layouts were established. And everybody in this market, in this country, is got for everything for granted, it's given. However, what happened for other economies? Let's say what happened in China during that time period. Back to that time point, there was no credit bureau, no decision science, no consumer credit at all, no credit cards even. There was the event, there was the compares two markets. There was the issue for me to decide, say, I spent many years in the US market, then I said, okay, let's go back to China to see if we can develop all those three things. Credit bureau business, credit reporting business, decision science, credit scores, decision engine, and also consumer credit, particularly credit cards. So there was a driving force for China Rapid Finance to start the journey. And look at China, even though there's nothing there, however, it's a vast market opportunities. Now, quickly turn forward the clock. Now let's look at in the US. Still in those areas, some emerging concepts developed. Big data is a major theme. Artificial intelligence, very hot topic. Even in this conference, everybody talk about. And also alternative lending. In those areas, but the overall framework, overall landscape pretty much remain the same. What happened in China after so many years? In China market, the same elements happened as in the US. Particularly credit reporting happened. Right now, Central Credit Bureau covers about the 800 million people. Probably the largest credit bureau in the world, obviously, in the big country like this. And the decision science, credit scoring happening, credit decision installed, even though most of those technology adopted from abroad. And the most importantly, consumer finance credit cards started emerging. There are more than 300 million people have a credit access. All happened in the last 15 years. Now, where should we go from here to the future? If you look at this chart, interesting enough, you can see non-mortgage credit as a percentage of the GDP in China only took about 2%. Still very small, still very low. And on the right-hand side, you can see the growth potential in China market is huge. People look at this chart right now, about this year, talk about a couple hundred of the billion in terms of the total market size. But this number quickly going to several trillions in the next couple of years. So the overall growth of the potential is really huge. You cannot find any other places with this kind of the growth potential. Why is that? Let's look at the basic fundamental comparison. In US market, we all know more than 60% of people have a credit access. Covers super prime, prime, near prime, etc. On the other hand, in China, banks only cover about 16%. We talk about 300 million people have a credit access. That counts about 16% of the population. Based on People's Bank of China statistics, there are about 500 million people. They do have a quality employment records. They have education. They live in cities. And they are actually probably work for small companies, probably in the service industry, etc. This population, they are using smartphones online all the time. We call them emerging middle class mobile active, EMMA for short. This is the population banks won't be able to extend their service. And this is where the opportunity for consumer finance resides. Now let's look at the question. Why these 500 million people, these 500 million EMMAs cannot get a service, cannot be covered? We just understand they are just ordinary people. They are good. Why banks cannot extend service? Let's look at the traditional licensed financial institution solutions. All financial institutions in China regulated by either CBRC or People's Bank of China, PBOC. They have the same, everybody can charge the same lending rate. In credit card world, everybody charges 18% across the board. No matter if you're using FICO score concept, no matter your FICO score 800 or your FICO score 600, you can only charge 18% across the board. So for credit card issuers, banks, there's no incentive for them to go down the risk spectrum. And also, because those people we talk about, they do not have a credit, no banks providing service to them, so they do not have a credit information available. So it becomes a chicken and egg situation. They don't have the data, so banks cannot get quickly access to evaluate the credit. The banks cannot evaluate their credit worthiness. Banks won't issue the credit, which results them they don't have a credit data at all. So that's kind of the difficult situation. So if banks want to go out to collect the data for those people, they'll be very costly. So after so many years, banks concentrate on a group of people. If you work for government, if you work for large state-owned enterprises, if you have a professional jobs, for instance, if you have like a medical staff, if you're with your professors or whatever, then the chances are you will be able to get it covered. You can access credit. But if you stay in the small companies, startups, or service industries, then banks won't be able to extend credit because banks do not know you. So the bank solution won't solve this 500 million people's financial need. Now looking for some alternative lending opportunities. For instance, installment loan solutions. In China, there are many so-called alternative financial solution, alternative lenders out there. Most of their models, almost all of them, they are providing a service model like installment loan, which is charge high upfront fees and then let the borrowers to pay back over the time, let's say 12 to 24, 36 months. Because those lenders all experienced a higher borrower acquisition cost, as high as a couple $100. In the United States, the typical credit card issuers pay about $300 to $400 to acquire credit card customers. In China, if you acquire a borrower, can easily go $500, even $600 to acquire a borrower. So if a borrower wants to get into installment loan kind of situation, he has to pay a couple $100 upfront. On top of that, he also has to pay interest to entire principal amount. So the principal amount, adding the fee cost, the loan becomes very costly. So the cost structure make the borrowers to pay very high fees, and the EMMA population, we talk about 500 million people. Most of them are cost sensitive. They want to get affordable loan, the affordable credit access. So obviously, installment loan solutions, other alternative lenders solutions cannot meet their need. Now let's look at some short-term cash loan solutions. Some providers also try to do some shorter cash loans, but also they'll also become very costly, even though the duration is shorter. But during the shorter duration, ask borrowers to pay high upfront fees, then the situation becomes even more difficult for ordinary borrowers to eat up their upfront cost. So that's the reason Emma is kind of stuck. Banks do not talk to them. Alternative lenders were not able to meet their needs. So that's the situation the market currently is facing. So on the other hand, the fundamentals to drive consumer finance is very strong. In this market, we know high number of people employed. They all have a high employment rate and they have a quality jobs. So those are the good foundation to develop very good consumer finance business. And also, the overall society is very stable. Overall socio-economic status are fairly stable for last 30, even 40 years. And also, new generation, they want to spend, they want to enjoy the current modern technology can bring to their lives. So they have confidence on their future earnings. They want to borrow, they want to enjoy life. So all those things create very good fundamentals to develop a consumer finance. And the market size could be as big as 500 million people. So that's the opportunity we talk about, and that's the huge unserved market. They are not so-called subprime. They are not desperate. They just want to enjoy life. They have a confidence on their future. Then, how to make it happen? How to serve this sector? That's the challenge we have to face. That's kind of the business equation we have to solve. The solution, the answer is technology. The technology we talk about is a big data solution. Now in the US, try to figure out the so-called creditworthiness, the prediction model, all try to solve what is the people's willingness to pay, what is their capability to pay, and what is their stability. Those are what we call a strong relationship. In the US market, credit bureau data does a super job to answer those questions. In China, the Emma population, 500 million people, they do not have a credit data coverage. So where shall we start it? We're using data elements, using those people's data left in the internet world, in the mobile space. We're putting those data together, paying a digital footprint to try to understand their digital life, and then form so-called the weak association model. Give credit to this big data solution, just rise. And also, we work with the multiple data partners, multiple channel partners, such that we're able to attract those weak signals all over the place, even though they do not have a credit bureau data, but we do know how those people look like, what is their profile, social profile. And also using we call the predictive selection technology, we're able to drive large-scale, low-cost, and a good quality borrower acquisition mechanism. So that kind of thing is happening. We are leading the effort in the China market. So that's kind of the things get excited. Remember one thing, in US market, compared with the US market, people try to find alternative data sources because for those people already covered in the credit bureau business, already covered the credit in the data, credit reporting bureaus, they actually served by banks. People try to find alternative data source, try to create so-called additional prediction power. In China market, however, the challenge for the algorithm, challenge for data, big data, even more severe because we really have to answer how to get a start, how to get initial kickoff, how to establish the prediction to address not just like how much we want to give people, how much the people's payment capability. We try to address how can we help people to get started, start to use credit. So that's the challenge you are facing. Now let's look at it. When we use those kind of the big data solution, when we use those kind of, say, the weak association model, help people to get started, then when they get started, we want to help those people build up the credit history. That's very important because this 500 million people, this supermarket size-wise, they do not have a credit access. Those people, they need to learn how to use credit. They need to learn how to build up the credit history. We need to help them to climb up in the credit ladder. So that's kind of the strategy we try to develop, such that we can help them to get started with a very small amount, let's say a couple hundred RMB, $100 to start with. That amount equivalent of $500 in this country, equivalent of about 1 week of salary for our ordinary starting stage borrowers. So we help them get started. They start to enjoy credit life. Then, because we offer them affordable credit, no one offers them affordable credit, banks would not even talk to them. So when we offer them minimum amount of credit in very affordable rate, they start to enjoy the credit life. They're going to repeat. They're going to come back. So they start to build up the credit history on our platform. So now people start to enjoy from $100 to a couple $100 to even thousands of dollars. So that's the curve we help them to repeat. Now the business model becomes very interesting. This becomes a usage model. Like Uber, we help them, give them $20 the first ride free, let them repeat use, keep coming back. Our model even better than that because in Uber users, you cannot expect people's riding distance is longer and longer. But we can actually not only help those people repeat usage, and also we can increase their loan amount over time. When those people start to build up the credit behavior, we all know in the credit prediction area, behavior data has a much strong prediction power than all the application data. So with that kind of the dynamic, we help those people start to establish credit behavior on our platform. They can start to enjoy higher loan amount and they enjoy lower rate. So we help them getting affordable credit. We meet their lifetime credit needs over time. So that's the model driven by our automated decision technology, drive credit usage, drive down the credit loss, increase the credit quality, and also develop the sustainable growth in the platform. So this is the solution we provide to this market. We are very excited for the opportunity. So look back 15, 17 years ago, when we started this business, we provided risk management solutions. After that many years, we compare the US market today, we compare China market today, we know how the market direction will be, which direction the market will drive. Right now, we define this segment, this 500 million people, we call them EMA, we define the segment, we own the segment, we find a solution, and we want to meet their lifetime credit needs, help them get it started on our platform. So that's our solution to provide this market. That's our way to take the fast lane such that not less of traffic over there. In this market, I think our solution will be able to serve 500 million people, and going forward, this market probably will let the entire world feel surprised. This untapped market rising in front of our eyes. That's my presentation. Thank you very much.